At us. Literally, we have been putting up electric drapes in our house. This is our Puerto Rico house, right? And we've been scrubbing paint off the floors. See, some of you guys think that, I actually try and make sure that my Instagram page isn't a bunch of just event pictures or I want people to actually see just really what the real life actually looks like. And the real life is scraping, paint off the floors because the painters, we literally had a contractor that not only tried to get me to pay him $45,000 prepaid sight unseen while I was vacationing to do our house, but he didn't do the $21,000 worth of work that we prepaid him. My husband said, "We will never do that again," right? And I'm gonna file a small claims court against him because we were talking about this with my friends last night. In fact, who's it meant to be live right now? Put MML or you're in 1%, right? Just the mastermind, right? So MML. So you guys have a training coming up this week. You have a training coming up on Thursday in Meant to Be Live, 1%, with my friend Sherry Campbell, who I was having dinner with last night. And I'm going to tell you the only time I have lost money in my business was year one when I tried to do it alone. I tried to just literally come up with the idea that made me fired up. And then I went through the whole year and made $2,000 profit in the whole year. Honestly, if anybody doubts that there is a God, there's got to be one, because I should have been out on the streets that year. Do you know what I'm saying? And so then I got smart. I hired a coach, and I had already built a list. And that saved me, because when I hired a coach, I had this email list, and that coach helped me go to $140,000 a year, which I would consider really my first real year in business, because I went from really $2,000 profit the first year doing it on my own to $140,000. And I can tell you that what I learned was messaging. Okay, and so today's world, obviously we have social media, we have all the things, and all of those are great. I love that I'm streaming right now. I love that I can reach a lot of people. If you're watching us on social media, would you mind, like on Instagram, would you mind sharing this and sharing it maybe with your story? And let's help more people, because that is the law of reciprocity, right? You guys on Facebook, share. Let's get enough people watching this so that more entrepreneurs let me put it this way. Have you ever struggled and you wish that somebody would show up and show you the way? If you've ever had that in your heart, share this live right now. And the reason why that's important is because blessings do not walk into your life if you cannot be a blessing to other people. And I don't mean just the people that you love. I mean the people that you are just show up on their thread, because on social media, we cannot control who sees our stuff. So if enough of us go and share right now, you are actually sowing and seeding the opportunity for when you're sitting in your living room or your bedroom and you're like, gosh, I wish somebody would just show me how to solve this problem. Guess what's going to happen to you? Somebody's going to pop up in your feed and it's going to be the perfect thing for you. Do you guys hear what I'm saying? Literally sow that into your life. Bad things happen to good people and bad people, but solutions happen faster to the people who have this generous heart, because they're more free. So I went and I built a list. And then I learned how to lead that list. And that's what this live is going to be about today. I'm going to show you 3 things that I have really identified in what would make a really, 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 really great through line for your business. Okay. So you're going to have to do some thinking. You guys ready to do some thinking? Put yes if you are. Are you ready to think, or do you want to just sit and watch, right? So I'm the girl that probes on you a little bit. You can't expect to win. And you can't expect to win in life if you are multitasking right now, because it's exactly the moment when the stuff comes up. So if you're not driving, I'd recommend that you have a piece of paper and pen and do this work with me, because people don't typically do it later, okay? So I have my trusty little whiteboard here, and I don't know how to use it yet, so this will be interesting, but we're gonna just do it messy. Are we good with that? Yes? Okay, so first and foremost, the first thing that I'm going to tell you is there is a pink, oh, that went yellow. I wonder how that happened. There is a pink, I feel like that was like a little blessing from God or something. There was like a little color a little light that came up on that. So there is a pink elephant in the middle of the room, and that pink elephant is something that you, depending on your heart, you either criticize it in your buyer, it's okay. You got to walk your journey and you got to heal your wounds, right? And so the pink elephant in the middle of the room is something like, when I look at entrepreneurs right now, I coach a lot of people in lots of different industries. But I also coach a lot of people who are in the same industry as me, where they're helping people make more money in whatever industry they're in, okay? And so in that, I am seeing this really interesting, call it no buying zone. Like where people are like sitting on their hands, and I'm not quite sure what's happening right now, but I'm gonna tell you that is the most unsafe place you could live in. Do you know what I mean? Okay, you cannot judge me on this, okay? I mean, you can, but I'm gonna ask you not to. My husband's an analyzer, so he looks at everything, right? Him and my friend Natalie Jill's husband, Brooks, I mean, these are the guys that when lockdowns happened, I had all these men in my living room, and they all had firearms. And no, we didn't live in Texas, right? And so they were worried about protecting their families. Thank goodness they didn't have to do anything, you know. However, we're kind of going through another one of these, right? And so like my husband's like, that's it, order the supplies, order this, order that. I'm like, you want me to have 60 days? I was like, 60 days of like, you know, military food that tastes like crap. I was like, you want me to order 60 days for each person? I'm like, that's like $1,000. Right? And on like stuff that, like in my head, I don't think we're gonna use, right? Like, really, can we use $1,000 on something else? Can I like give it to the orphanage, or, you know? And he's like, no, I'm serious, that's what we need, right? And so I share this with you because, you know, if something happens, which who knows if it will or won't, there's an energy in the air that people are feeling uncertain. And what they're doing is they're pulling back and they're putting their hands underneath their tushies and they're sitting on them. And I'm seeing it a lot. Now, does that mean that people are, I have no idea why when I do the little thing, it gives yellow, but I mean, I kind of like it. I feel like the light's in the space, the dark and the light. Okay, so the pink elephant in the middle room right now with entrepreneurs is they have stopped buying. They have stopped buying. I have no idea why I was doing that. I love it. Okay, they've stopped buying. Okay, so what does that mean to me? So a lot of times in entrepreneurship, you need to remember this, that you are the leader of the movement and you have to do a gut check. And if you buy into that gut check, not only do you disqualify yourself as somebody who's going to prosper, but you are going to guarantee yourself getting off purpose. Because when you don't move forward, you drop into fear. Okay, it doesn't mean scary things don't happen in the world. People get diagnosed with horrible diseases, you know, things happen, right? Like horrible things happen. But what we do with it really matters. And so when I talk about, like the last week and a half, I talked a lot about leadership. You have to be able to lead through a stop. Does that make sense? A personal stop and a business stop. And that's what I'm calling the pink elephant in the middle of the room. So when you look at this, I want you to ask yourself, what have you identified with your customer or client that's seasonal, meaning that it's here right now? What's the pink elephant in the middle of the room? If nobody was watching, what would be the language you would say? Okay, and I want you to go in the chat and I want you to write it. Okay, and I want you to not edit it. If you edit it, it's a problem. Okay, you cannot edit it. Okay, you've got to be honest about how you would say this. Okay, so I'm complacent. What else, guys? Okay, I'm not understanding what you mean here. Okay, so what I mean is, okay, think about the industry you're in. Okay, so I help entrepreneurs build businesses. I help them take care of their families, essentially. Their future families or the families they have. That is what I'm doing. Like, I don't just help you make money, I help you create a legacy. And I'm very, very serious that a legacy is not some money that can be like spent in one generation. That's irresponsible to me. right? Like, I'm like, you got to reach as high as you can reach so that because the next generation is supposed to beat you in a good way. It's a good thing. It's expanding your last name, right? It's expanding your legacy. So I think about the community that I help, and I'm seeing the patterns in other people's communities that help the same group. And there, it's like the old messaging is not working. And that's the responsible of saying it. That's a responsible way of saying it. But the pink elephant, the victim way of saying it is webinars don't work, challenges don't work, telesummits don't work, live events don't work. Like that is the victim way. And whenever I hear anybody say that, I know that they are not being responsible. Does that make sense? And so they either need to be right about something or they need to avoid rejection. And I'm not following that. Do you guys hear what I'm saying? I hope you're hearing me. So the pink elephant in the middle of the room is first typically the victim response to, oh my God, people stop buying. What's going on? Well, and then your logic should kick in if you're actually going to lead through this and be like, there's fear in the air, right? You got a lot coming out through the news, right? Like a lot. Right, you got wars popping up. You've got, it's kind of like a new version of, a few years ago. It's just a new package, right? And if you know anything about 401ks, you understand that wars are very, very profitable. You get what I'm saying? They're very, very profitable, and there is like this hint, and there is like a lot of stuff going on saying that get ready. Right? And now our government's saying, hey, get ready, get prepared, make sure that you can last 3 days. What do you think 3 days are going to go? And then I talked to some of my friends, they're like, we got iodine. I'm like, what does iodine do? They're like, you take iodine, it stops you from like having radioactivity. If they're like, and I'm like, oh snap. I was like, but I don't feel fear, but I feel a little not prepared. Anybody else feel that way? I feel a little not prepared. Right? Anybody else feel that way? Right? And so, it's funny when you talk about something quote unquote negative, a lot of the promoters want you to stop talking about it because they think you're going to attract it in. And although there is a huge power to your authority and your words, there is also not putting your head in the sand and realizing, well, if something happened, you'd feel really pissed if the whole world had this negative viewpoint and attracted it in, and you were the one with your head like an ostrich in the ground. Right? And so you don't have to grab onto the fear around it, but you do have to be prepared. Somebody said to me last night, said, well, if you're a believer, won't God take care of his people? And I was like, well, yeah, but like, what if God's whispering? What if he's nudging? What if he's saying like, here's how you take care of yourself? And we're not. So my point is there's all these levels of interpretation. And when it comes to marketing your message, there are all these levels of interpretation, and your interpretation matters. And your interpretation connects with a group of people. So I urge you to say, do you want a fear-based mentality client, or do you want a client that is empowered and like is willing and wanting to take the next step in their life no matter what's happening in the world? And I would say empowered, right? I would definitely say empowered, which means that who do you have to be? You have to be somebody who's empowered, right? And so now's the time where we get honest. So there's a pink elephant in the middle of the room. And I'm going to take out the stop. And I'm going to say, this pink elephant in the middle of the room. Oh, that's why it's doing that. This pink elephant in the middle of the room. I figured it out. See, I'm becoming an expert on my whiteboard. The pink elephant in the middle of the room, you have an opinion about this. And this needs to become what I call your through line. Okay, and this is really critical, you guys, because if you think you're going to sell the same way over the next 30, 60, 90 days or 6 months, you are sadly mistaken. Some of you guys, and I'm going to ask you, if you've been in business for a while, you may have pivoted your message and you're crushing it. Okay, and that's awesome. But you may be noticing a slowdown in buying. Is that happening? If you've noticed it, put slow in the chat. Put the word slow. If you've noticed a slowdown, put slow in the chat. Okay, so if you've pivoted, put a P in the chat for pivoted, right? If you've pivoted, put a P in the chat for pivoted. Okay, so you see a mixture. So by the way, that mixture has everything to do with leadership. I think our page is closed down now, but you should have bought. If you are noticing a slowdown and you haven't pivoted, you should have bought. You should have went to joinhclnow.com, right? And when I had that offer open, I gave 46 or 48% off my leadership program, and now it's not there. Now, this is life. And you either become a victim to these conversations, or you blame them, or you point fingers, or you have a decision that you're going to attack me or somebody else. You got to stop. And you got to get responsible about the fact that you must move on the things that are important. I must move on what my husband has asked me to do and not stop because I'm like, I don't really want to spend $1,000 on food that I don't want, like military food. Right? Not nutritional, not whatever, in case something happens. Like, it doesn't really matter. You get what I'm saying? Like, if I don't make a move on that and something happens, then who do you think I'm going to be upset at? Me, because I missed a window. What's most important to me? Now, this is what's interesting. What's most important to your customer and client, because to go from the pink elephant in the middle of the room to taking action, there has to be a reason. And the reason comes down to you being able to clearly articulate what it is that your customer and client wants. I want safety for my children. I want safety for my husband. I want safety for my friends. I want that. Does that make sense? So I'm willing to subscribe to that to be able to make sure that's the case. Does that make sense? So now when you get to your messaging, your marketing, this is what's made me millions of dollars. I go, what's the big elephant in the middle of the room? What's the thing that makes me feel like they're stopping at and I can't get them to take action? And this essentially is buying, right? Assuming they want what it is that you have, right? Like if you're somebody who helps somebody, like turn a diabetes, illness into health again, do you not think those people are sitting there going, oh my God, I'm freaking out because I've got signs of diabetes. I got to change my lifestyle, right? They got to change their lifestyle, but where are you to help them? Well, if you can't talk about the pink elephant in the middle of the room, which is why they haven't bought from you yet, if you can't do that, then guess what? You can't create a good enough message. You can't create a good enough product, program, service. It doesn't matter. The pink elephant is the bridge in your messaging to people buying. Are you guys starting to hear me on this? Say yes if you are. So the question is when you create messaging for your business, are you thinking about the pink elephant or are you being obvious? Right? Are you being obvious? And I'm going to tell you, I coach a lot of people, thousands of people. I think we had, I think they said 2,200 or 2,700 people join our community over the last like 4 or 5 days. It's a lot. So closing in on 3,000 new people just over the last 3-4 days that have joined our community. If you've joined our community, literally, you've just gotten to know me in, let's call it the last 2 weeks, will you put the number 2 in the chat? If you're just kind of tuning in for the first few like lives that I do, put the number 2 in the chat, right? And on the comments threads, right? And so it's good to see that, right? So I always have to be looking at, first of all, lead genning, right? And so do you. Why? Because these new people tell me what's happening. Because you guys have been following me for a while, most of you like and trust me at this point, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here, right? Like I asked the other day, I said, how many of you guys made $20,000 or more? And the chat, like with my coaching, and the chat lit up, right? And there's people watching right now that's made millions of dollars. There's people that are watching that have made $500,000. There's people that have made $100,000 a year when they just started their company. We have a client that did $3 million her first year in business. That's our best success story. That is not normal at all, right? And she had a really small list and she bombed all of her first couple webinars, but she just kept going at it in frequency, which means every single week she took her list and she went out and just did a very informal presentation and she inched her way up to $3 million, bought her husband, I think it was a Lamborghini. right? And you might not like a Lamborghini, but it wasn't about her. It was about a dream her husband had. And it was about a beautiful moment between them. Does that make sense, you guys? So the only way that you can stay connected is you need to, I would say, have new blood, right? New people. There's blood running through all of our veins. You have to have new blood coming in so that people keep you fresh and on your toes, because guess who they are? People who don't know, trust, and love you yet. So lead gen is a really important thing that everybody is focusing on constantly. Can I get a yes that can I put the word list? Put the word list in the chat if you're going to make sure that you continue to build your buyers list, please. I will tell you, out of 14 years of coaching, the number one reason that, or the number one problem that people come to me with is, I don't have enough money. I'm like, what's your list at? Oh, like 1,000. That's a problem, and it's inexcusable, right? I teach list building all the time. You can go to retiremeshanda.com. Somebody put that in the chat, retiremeshanda.com. And for $47, I'll teach you tomorrow, the next day, how to build a buyer's list and take care of it for the rest of the year. Do you know what I'm saying? In fact, I'll give you a credit. You go retiremeshanda.com and get your ass in the workshop the next 3 days. I'll credit you the money back. You know what I mean? Like, take care of yourself. You guys, like, don't hear these things and not take action on them. Say, well, I'm working. Like, that's the time to call in sick. Do you know what I mean? You should set a goal that in 4 months you can resign, right? Because when people are building their buyers list with us, they monetize them while they're building. Like, there ain't no college or university. Y'all sign up for college or university or courses, and none of them put money back in your pocket. We do. Like, that is what we teach, to monetize it while you're doing it, right? So if you go to retiremeshanda.com, and Shanda is SHANDA, retiremeshanda.com. It's $47. I'll train you over the next 2.5 days, and I'll credit you your money back. How about that? Right? Like, you can't get any more generous. What am I doing right there? All those new people, I'm building rapport with them, right? Like, I rarely make the same offer twice, right? I rarely give the same gift twice. And my point of sharing that with you is I'm building culture with the new people. But I also have to pay attention to what do they say in the chat, because what they say in the chat is my survey, right? But if you can't get people engaging in your stuff because you don't have a list, or you're trying to build your social, just so you know, I could send an email or a text message to my list. I could run a 3-hour or a 1 day, by the way, urgency this is why people get stopped with pink, all of you, every single one of your industries. One of the biggest reasons why people do not buy from you is you give them too much time. Okay, you give them too much time. And that's a really big problem. And so if I went to my list right now and sent an email or text and said that maybe I wanted them to go comment on a post. Makes sense, you guys? Maybe I want them to go comment on a post. And the people whoever comments the best message on, this is not a real thing, but whoever comments the most inspirational or whatever, I can do this with my clients, right? I can go to my list, because there's people on my list that are no longer my clients and are my clients. I go, whoever's ever worked with me, if you go comment on this chat and give the best endorsement of what it was like to work with me, I'm going to give somebody $500 today. But you got 3 hours to do it. Okay? That would blow up. It's an unfair advantage. The list is an unfair advantage. But you can't get them to show up if you don't look at the pink elephant in the middle of the room. So if you're like, people are not buying, I'm telling you they're not buying because you're not leading. And the way that you lead is you look for where is their problem that they are stopping taking action. The second thing you need to do, I'm gonna erase this part. The second thing you need to do is you need to pay attention to what do you say in your own head. Okay, so how would you say this? Right? I'm going to give you some incredible speaking tip right now. Okay, so when you speak about this pink elephant in the middle of the room for your customer or client, right? It's a thing that is a blind spot, called a blind spot for them, right? Like, I did not hire a relationship coach when I went for my whole life I was never good with men. Okay, like, I have no women in my life that I think have been great with men. My grandmother pretty much ignored my grandpa, right? They slept in separate rooms but stayed married because their generation, you just don't get divorced. Then my mom has been divorced and she's never been able to, it's basically like 3 to 5 year relationships and then they end, right? My stepmom married my dad and they were together the majority of my life and then they separated when I went to college. Like, I'm telling y'all, like, I don't know why I thought I was like somehow there were no good men in the world. Like, I don't know why I ever thought that, because the truth is I had no framework. And so the blind spot was I need to hire a coach. And when I hired a coach that really helped me date, I found my husband in 90 days. And my girlfriend who hired the same coach found her husband in 90 days. Okay, and like, so success leaves clues. That was a blind spot to me, right? So I kept doing it on my own. Some of you guys are building businesses on your own, right? And it's a blind spot. You create a lead magnet and put it up on a social media page. Or yesterday I was coaching on this on demand and somebody's like, I'm going to go put money into a website and I want an investor for that. You know who you were, right? Great heart, great intention. The problem is nobody's going to the website to buy. They get lost on a website. People go to opt-in pages to buy, register, thank you pages to buy, register. They don't go to websites. They haven't for years. Websites have been so outdated for a very, very long time. Okay, and you don't need credibility in today's age. Okay, you don't need credibility, you need a through line. Okay, so the second thing is this is how you speak. So this is your hook, and I want you to write notes on this, because this is where a lot of people get confused. So now this is why everything's leadership. Whatever you see honestly is your buyer's blind spot. You need to start talking about it the way you would talk to your friend at a dinner table tonight. Okay, so here's my friend Kim and Tom are coming in, right? They're flying in right now, so they could walk in any second now. And so if I was with Kim and Tom and I was talking about you behind your back, I would say, let me think how I say it. I'm just gonna start talking about it, right? And this is what I do. I find my hooks when I just start talking about it. Some of you guys are in such isolation, you have nobody to talk to. Do you know what I mean? Like you gotta like get in a mastermind. We have one, Mentor Me Live, right? Like go to Tony Robbins, I don't care who you go to. You gotta get in a mastermind and you need to go to your live masterminds. Like you have to actually go in person. Because I'm telling y'all, the virtual world is amazing, but it is also very sickening. People sit at tables now and surf Instagram instead of talking to the real human being in front of them or their children, right? And it's a complete blind spot because they don't realize how, or maybe they do realize that they're a freaking addict on the social media, right? Like I have my kid off right now. He's off for 4 days. It's hidden. Every day, multiple times a day, he comes to me to try and find a way to earn his iPad back. It's addicting. Do you know what I mean? Like, we gotta save these little brains. It's addicting. And it recreates that. But it's also like all these adults that somehow we're exempt to it. No, we're not. We're like having virtual reality friendships with people that don't even know who we are. Right? We're talking about people we love and say, oh my gosh, look at her, look at him. Oh, they have the best marriage. Like, we really do this. I know you do it. I do it. Everybody does it. You have to catch yourself, right? You have to catch yourself. So the way I work out my pink elephant is I notice what I believe is true. So I believe that entrepreneurs have stopped buying, and I believe that there's a massive lack of urgency. And again, I was messaging somebody today who I sent a lead to, and they still haven't talked to them, and it's been 2 days. That would never happen to me. Very rarely would it happen to me. So I shouldn't say never, but very rarely would it happen to me, right? And I took the lead back. Do you know what I mean? I did that on purpose. And the reason why I share this with you is because you have to be on a freaking mission to help people. There are people right now that are starving for your attention. They are hurting, and all you're thinking about is how do I freaking get engagement and message and market and sell and make ends meet when they need you to be bigger than that. They need you to be a bigger leader than that. They need you to be someone who literally, when you think about it, you actually do your work and you're like, what's the blind spot? So I think when I'm really talking about the big elephant in the middle of the room is the one that's obvious is the delay, the lack of urgency, the hesitation to work your ass off but have no urgency, right? Lots of open loops but no completion energy. But really when I think about that is when compassion starts taking over my heart, I'm like, I don't need to make you feel bad about that because you already do. What I need to do is I need to have you understand that that is a product of not feeling safe. Do you guys hear what I'm saying? When you feel unsafe, the capacity to think about your audience, your buyer, your customer, your client, your patient, your hairdresser, whatever it is, right? The capacity to even think about your children or your husband or somebody you're dating or your wife or, you know what I mean? Your capacity is not there. So what's the real pink elephant in the middle of the room that makes me sound different than everybody else out there? Exactly what I just revealed to you, right? That entrepreneurs do not have the capacity to lead great movements because they are so worried about making the wrong decision, investing in themselves, investing with other people because they've been let down. And so what they do is they sit on their hands right now and wait. What do you think waiting is doing? Absolutely the opposite of learning. You have to make mistakes to be able to monetize or materialize the lifestyle that you want next, right? You have to make mistakes. I've said this book many times on this on demand. There's a red book called Blitz Scaling, and it will completely counteract most people who have ever given you coaching, especially, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but if you are coaching with a business coach that's making 6 figures, you're making a mistake. And the reason why I'm telling you making a mistake is they only have the capacity. It's not like people they don't have the capacity to take you to 7 fast, so it's going to take you a long time. You're going to grow at their pace, which means now you are under their authority of the way that they think. Are you guys hearing me? So Blitz Scaling, and by the way, if you're a coach or a mentor or somebody that makes 6 figures, I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm trying to light a fire under your ass to do 7 figures this year. Okay, I'm trying to say, listen, you don't have to stay there. And you're going to have better clients when you can take people faster because people get bored or they get discouraged fast when they don't get results. And you need to have the backbone and the authority to be able to lead them through when they normally quit. And that is not a 6-figure business owner. That is not. It is not, because they've quit a lot of times. That's why they're only at 6 figures. Does that make sense, you guys? Especially if it's been over a year. Get it? Yes? So the way that you hook is you gotta talk enough about the pink elephant. I mean, how long do you guys think I just talked for? Just put a number that like 60 seconds. I mean, about the pink elephant. 2 minutes, a minute, where I just kind of start fleshing it out, right? And what I realize is that what I should be saying out there right now, and I really just debriefed that with you. Like that, now you're gonna hear me saying it because that's 100% what I believe is that you don't have the capacity to go to where you wanna go next because you are concerned about making the wrong decision now or making the wrong decision with somebody else, like where you're investing your money. What if I don't get my return on investment? Like you are in a very concerned state. And that emotional state is going to hurt you. And so what I need to do is hook with that information and show you a way through. This is a through line. I need to show you a way through. So you guys want to know a way through? Okay, do you want to know a way through? I'm not giving you a way through if you don't put yes. Come on, guys, right? Like, let's wake up. Okay, so here's the way through. First and foremost, you must identify. This is for real. This is not part of my content today. This is my, I guess, bulletproof of what the work you need to do right now. You need to ask yourself right now. You need to ask yourself right now. Number one, what do you need the most right now? This is a really tricky question. What do you need the most right now? If you took everything away from me, absolutely everything away from me, I'm gonna give $50 to someone who answers this correctly first. What do you think I need immediately? Right? It was Zena. Zena, I'm giving you $50, right? I need leads, I need a list. I need leads, I need a list. Relationships are critically important, 100%. But the depth of the relationship is the most important. Okay? But what do you think is gonna happen when shit hits the fan? What do you think is gonna happen? It's gonna hit the fan for everyone. And then there's gonna be a group that always goes and prospers because the most amount of money happens when shit's hitting the fan, right? Yes, I'm the Christian that needs to class it up with my language. I really do. I know I need to. I know God's really working with me on this one. So, but what do you need the most? So I need leads. What does this keep me? I need leads. Okay? Whatever. Apparently that's new blood and leads. I gotta figure, I'm the girl who doesn't read the instruction book, so my husband's gonna read it and then tell me how to use it, okay? So I need leads, and if you already have leads, then you don't need that. Right? You're good. So I have a lot of leads. If I don't lead gen, which I would never stop, by the way, just so you know, I lead gen 7 days a week, and not me going out and playing the hamster wheel of content out there. Okay, like I lead gen 7 days a week. I have never stopped lead genning 7 days a week since I realized when I created a product and had no buyers, right? When I created a product and had no buyers, I was like, this was a huge blind spot. And how many months do you think it took me to create a product? A lot, because I had no leads to ask what they wanted. Do you get what I'm saying? Like every product I've created, and the reason why it's no secret how I made money, I don't create things out of my head. I ask my list. They go from leads, they're my list, and then they become, a certain percent of them become buyers. These buyers, I simply ask them. And I lead the question, right? I ask them. I just created a survey for some of my Mentor Me Live clients that actually won an opportunity to come to Puerto Rico and come spend a day with me here. And we created basically a survey, but it's an application. They're already coming, but it essentially is a survey so that I can learn more about them before they walk in the door, right? Why? Because that tells me what to create. Have you ever been in a relationship where you keep telling somebody how to love you? I don't care about this. I care about you going for miracle walks with me. I don't care about the gifts, or maybe you do care about the gifts, right? Like, I just want a Christmas present or a birthday present, or I just want a card. Like, you know, like, and somebody just refuses to love you the way you want to be loved. Come on, you guys. Any of you guys ever been in a relationship like that? Unless you, like, maybe you married the first person that you ever dated and they were freaking perfect. And then I'm just saying, congratulations on that. But, you know, that has not been my world with my husband, and it hasn't been his world with me. We had to learn how to love each other, right? And there's nothing worse than trying to build a business where you're trying to love your customers and clients, and they're like, this is not what I want. And that's called feedback. And that's why they don't buy, that's why they don't pay attention, and that's why they're gone. Okay, so I'm biblical, I'm not like psychic, but people often say to me, hey, it's like you're in my head, right? I'm like, I am in your head, but I'm not. I am constantly surveying. Every time I ask you guys to comment, I'm surveying. And I'm a woman, so I can look at that survey at the same time. And I can see what's happening, and then it jives me on what to train next. This training got created by the On Demand Mastermind yesterday. They asked for it, and I complied. Does that make sense? And so how many guys think that this is valuable? Put the word value in the chat. How many guys think this is valuable? Put the word value in the chat right now. Okay, so what do you think is connected to value? Buyers. When you have somebody that says, and tomorrow I'm going to talk about sales deeply. Are you guys okay with that? Because if you can't sell, we got a problem. I don't mean like having the talent to persuade somebody. I mean truly being in a situation where you know how to lead somebody, where it's easy for someone to say yes to you. How many of you guys are going to the list building course? Put the word list. How many of you guys are going to the list building course? Put the word list, right? And so look at those people going to list building course, right? And so that's powerful. They know, they know that they need it. Does that make sense? I promise you, like I promised you, like I promised you, I don't swear on my life anymore. I've done that enough times to try and convince people, and I'm a little creeped out about it, so I'm not doing that anymore. But like, I will tell you, as honest as I can be, I would not change knowing how to speak from a stage. Like, I would not exchange how to be able to build warm leads in my life. I would not exchange that knowledge for being able to speak on a stage. And I speak on a lot of stages. Okay? Now, if you are going to speak, you need to know how to speak to these people. How do I speak to them? I ask them. And that makes me feel safe, it makes them feel safe, and it creates buyers, it creates value. Okay, so here's how you get into it. And I'm gonna fast track this training so I can move on to you guys just on Zoom and start answering some questions, okay? So when you start to speak, I need to actually go deeper into this with you guys on Zoom, but for you guys watching on social media, I'm gonna give you the best I can, but I need to go deep with these guys on Zoom, okay? And so you need to, you need to hook with the pink elephant solution, like the problem solution. The problem is the pink elephant, right? It's not up there anymore, but the problem is the pink elephant. The problem is the pink elephant, and I'm gonna hook with that, which means I need to get into it, I need to speak about the situation. So, think about what I said about capacity. I don't give a big, long backstory around this. I just get into it. Think about, okay, so this is a great example. What industry are y'all in? Go put your industry in the chat, which actually is a great opportunity for you to promote yourself. Go in the chat, do not drop links, but go in the chat. What industry are you in? Okay? And so you should all look in the chat right now, and your joint venture partners are in the chat. And you should not be freaking lazy and miss opportunities like this. Your joint venture partners are in the chat, and you should take a look at your, like, see who could you partner with to do what I call Power 5, which is run with 5 people this year that can help, you guys can help build each other up. Do not hang out with people that are not playing a big game, because you will not play a big game if that's the case, okay? And don't feel intimidated if you're still getting there. You go out there and you run, okay? So now think about why you got into that industry. Something happened. There's a point of trauma somewhere. Something happened, okay? And you might be borrowing your parents' trauma, right? Like, lawyers tend to produce more lawyers, right? Like, it's like, my dad was a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, we're all lawyers, right? Like, but there's a point where you made a decision to go into it. Okay, so when I was a little girl, I moved in with my dad in grade 11. And my mom worked like 9 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. She was a furniture salesperson, and she worked very, very hard. And there was a point in time where, when I went into senior high school, that I threatened my mom that if she didn't do what I wanted her to do, typical bad teenager behavior, that I was going to move in with my dad. And I said it enough times that my mom called my bluff, called my dad, and I moved in with them. We cried the entire way to my dad's house. What I felt was she was abandoning me. What she felt was, because I never thought my mom would ever let me go, right? Like, I mean, I can't tell you how much I cried, and she cried the whole way there, but we were living 2 different realities. Her reality was, hold on one sec, I want to make sure that we don't lose this. Her reality, sorry, I don't know why this, give me one sec. It looks like my thing is not charging, and that freaks me out. My mom's reality was, I love that we can just be casual like this. My mom's reality was, something's happening. My mom's reality was that my dad was very, very wealthy, And she figured that now I could get a great education at the right time in my life, and she wouldn't be able to afford sending me to college or university, which is what happened. So I moved in with my dad, and now I'm living with my dad. And my dad, like I watched my dad go from very, very rich, drivers, cooks, everything, right? And like my life now, and he lost everything. And I will tell you, a few years ago, I lost a lot of money, like a lot of money. And there was the fear that came in. It's like the devil loves these moments, right? The fear that came in, like, oh my God, I'm about the age my dad was. And I was like, I wonder if this pattern is like replicating into me. Does that make sense? And then that started to, like, it didn't get much of a grip on my mind, but it was hovering. And this is why the power of proximity is really important. I called a good friend of mine, Rex Crane, and I said, I have this reoccurring thought that's trying to get a grip on me. And I knew that it wasn't from heaven. Like I knew, like God just doesn't talk to us like that, right? And so what happened was I talked to Rex, and he was like, he showed me all the reasons why I am totally different from my dad. Does that make sense? And it broke. Like it had no more grip on me. So nothing about that story gives you this big laundry list, like the guy or the girl that you're dating that won't stop talking. It's all quite interesting because I got right into it. In order for you to lead this pink elephant and lead people to safety, and I want you to write that word down, you need to lead people to safety. And the way you lead them to safety is to know where their blind spot is and where they're currently unsafe. Let me tell you something. You are massively unsafe if you are not making decisions right now. You're massively unsafe if you don't have a list. You're massively unsafe if you're not investing in your business, right? You're massively unsafe if you're doing that, because I know that you are doing it off your own trial and error. And I know it sounds very, very logical to do it the smart way or do it the savings way or when I can afford to do something. But I'm telling you, I literally paid my coach every 30 days, and I worked to sell a client or two to be able to pay for it. I did that with my virtual assistant. It's what held me accountable because I knew that I wasn't getting anywhere without them. Does that make sense? Like, I've always had this insane gratitude for the people who have coached me or helped me or been my virtual assistant, even if they're not perfect. I've always had this insane gratitude. So what do you think happens? I pull a lot of juice out of that relationship, always. I've never had a coaching session that I have not pulled a lot of momentum out of because of the way that I think and see the person in front of me. I make a lot of money with my customers, clients, and prospects because I see their problem and I don't condemn them for their problem. Do you know when I made little bits of money? When I condemned, my cook just got here. When I condemned, she's like a light. Like seriously, she walks in and she carries an aura with her. She's incredible. But when I condemned you guys for your problems, like as if I'd never had them before, and like going like this, like we do sometimes to the people we love, right? It just, I made little bits of money. And when I say little bits of money, I made about $100,000 to $500,000. And I'm telling you, you could do so much better by shifting the way that you talk to people right now. See people's blind spots and find the compassion in your heart to lead them to safety by showing them that it's not real. The thought in your head is not real. You are not incompetent. You do not have a confidence issue. You have a vision issue, right? Like these are fixable things. You don't need to be fixed. The way that you set goals needs to be fixed. The friends that you spend your time with need to be fixed. Like there's some few key things that you can do, and you can see it in successful people. They don't hang out with people that are losing. And I get very, like, people get pissed when I say this stuff, but like, there really are people who lose over and over and over again. And if that's you right now, you don't have to live there. I can tell you why you're losing. You're hanging out with people who don't build you up. You're hanging out with people who literally don't have urgency or ambition. And somewhere along the way, you gave up your competency and your confidence. And it's a thought pattern. Right? And it's stealing your ability to create the results that you want. And let me tell you, there's a bunch of people in between. You're living in comfort. You're living fine. It's okay. You can pay your bills. You're genuinely happy. I'm not really motivated by money, but I want to help people. Like that's all the shit that's talked about in that group. right? Like that's the lingo. That's the that never is talked about in the high net worth circles. They don't like, yes, I'm not motivated by money, but like, I don't ever say that to my friends. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a thing. Like, it's not a thing that, like, I actually said it last night, funny enough, but it was in a different context. Does that make sense? It wasn't defending myself on why I wasn't going after it. Does that make sense? Like, so it's a defense mechanism, and that's why we say things like that. We justify the lack of urgency and the lack of courage. Do you see what I'm saying? So now when you break free to that next generation, which we're going to, if you are watching these lives, especially if you're on getgoodcoaching.com, right? That's the Zoom, right? If you're someone who, so if you're on a 9-day free trial right now, can you put the number 9 in the chat? If you're on a 9-day free trial right now, we put the number 9 in the chat. I'm just curious to see how many of you guys are here. I'm just curious. Put the number 9, you guys on Zoom right now, put the number 9 in the chat. If you're on 9-day, welcome. Welcome. I hope this is worth your time, and I hope that I can over deliver for you. And then after the 9-day free trial, you can go on $30 a month, and you will never find another virtual mastermind or live mastermind that will ever feed you at this level. Right? Like, how many of you guys have made money? Put the dollar symbol, or even put the amount of money you've made working with me. Just, if you wouldn't mind just doing that. If you've made money working with me, put the number that you put in the chat. Dollar symbol or number. Like, I made 100,000, I made 50,000, I made 10,000, I made whatever that looks like. Put it in the chat, right? Don't be shy on that. You never have to worry about talking about money, right? I made 90,000, made 2,000, made 25,000, right? Well over 5 million, 480,000, 50,000, over 100,000, right? Like, it's powerful stuff, right, guys? Like, it's powerful stuff. I made 20,000. You know, this is powerful stuff, you guys. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to live in an impoverished world. We can live on purpose and with great prosperity. And I know you'll use that prosperity for something good. So I gotta give you the last piece. And that is, pink elephant becomes your hook. Your hook is you talking about where were you or where are they in this moment? What room of their house are they in? That's where you start your storytelling. Does that make sense? That's where you start your hook. That's where you start your message. Okay, is where are they right now? Are they sitting at the dinner table right now with their family, and you're a marriage supporter, advisor, whatever, and they're sitting with their family right now and they're not talking to each other? That's where you start your message, right? Are they, Karen Hardy, are they like behind the chair and they're doing hair and they're working long hours and their feet are hurting and they're feeling like, I am not with my babies, I'm missing my kids right now, but I can't afford to stop. Right? Like, that's where you start your message, right? And so your message, your hook, which is your message, leads them to safety. Safety, y'all, is your offer. Safety is your offer, right? For entrepreneurs who don't have an email list, you need to go to retiremeshanda.com. For entrepreneurs who don't have passive income, you need to maybe build a business with me in network marketing. How many guys would like to do that? How many of you guys would love to partner with me in a network marketing company and build a business with me, right? Put me in the chat, right? Put me in the chat. Okay, so like, this is how you got to talk to people, because people are smart. But if you don't have a list and you don't have people coming, then you can't help as many people. You're trying to market out there to the abyss, and nobody's engaging because you actually didn't do the step that's important, which is build the list so that you can drive them to your social media, right? Like, you guys, how many people do I get to work with in network marketing? Probably a lot. How many people do I get to work with in my coaching company? A lot, right? How many success stories are around me? Well, it's just by default, because my clients help coach my community. I have a coaching department, and it's become bigger than me. What's your bigger than me story? What is that safety story for you? And I want you to get clear on that today. Tomorrow, I'm going to come back and I'm going to teach you how to sell. Right? Keith, you guys on social media, I'm going to pop you guys off. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll teach you how to sell. And Keith can pop that off. Turn off the live. So